Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Event Industry News podcast with me, James Dickson, wishing you all a very good morning, afternoon or evening, whenever or wherever you tune into today's podcast from. And you will notice that I am not sat at an upright piano in my living room with a laptop camera in front of me. I'm in a beautiful space today. We have been afforded the luxury of an invitation down to the Hilton Birmingham Metropole. They are celebrating 50 years operationally here, of course, on site at the NEC, and they've invited us down to record some episodes of the podcast at the hotel, and they've given us this beautiful space in the Brightsmiths restaurant and bar overlooking the lake here at the NEC. Gorgeous. It's a beautiful day, and it's a genuine privilege to be sat in comfortable surroundings and being able to chat to people about events here at the hotel. My guest on today's podcast is Rita Chandarana. Rita is from Eventologists, and well, I'm not going to explain or introduce about things. First of all, Rita, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much.
And this is a beautiful space. It's a wonderful hotel. It's a big old space as well. Tell us about Eventologists and what you do here for the events that take place.
Well, first of all, this is home. I feel really comfortable. I've been working here for as the eventologist for many, many years, about 12 years, as one of their preferred suppliers. So real privilege to be here. But I started my life working at Hilton Metropole, so almost 35 years ago. So Eventologists is the creative production team behind some of the magical spaces that you see on Instagram, on LinkedIn. So we are actually preferred suppliers here, delivering the most amazing creative events, from an absolute transformation to some of the smaller events that you see in Brightsmiths here, where we are, where last night we were doing a lovely event for 90 people, and it was 9 table centres, but it looked really smart, kind of suited the vibe. So it's a mixture of events, but everything from Christmas to some of their showcases that are managed with us.
My first instinct is, what an exciting business to work in. Your role, being able to come in to what are already great spaces, but effectively turn them into something based on what the client wants it to look like or feel like, or what they want their attendees to experience. It literally must be every day. It must be starting with a blank piece of paper from a creative point of view. Well,
you have to, because at the end of the day, we are living in this world where we want immersiveness, we want theatre, we want much more than just a mundane. And I think we live in a world where conferences, corporate events are now demanding much more than the kind of sterile environment of a box. And whilst Hilton is beautiful, it's an amazing hotel, and I'm just so privileged to work here, and I love it, and I love every space. But at the end of the day, that's not enough to get repeat business. That we need to provide some real stimulating spaces, and that's what we do alongside Protec, to create a space where people just don't want to leave, and they digest the information so well when it's much more theatrical and immersive, because that's what the recall is. It was that event where we talked about the future, but it had like spinning globes and bright flashing lights. That's what people remember of events. So that's what we're creating. It's a real sensory experience. So for me, no one event. If you look at my warehouse, it's every product is repurposed and changed to make sure that we're constantly renewing and reviving products, but also delivering very different experiences, not just for the customer, but also for Hilton and the Hilton team, because they don't want to see the same every day, and that's what we pride ourselves in.
I'm pleased that you mentioned Protec, because we were lucky enough to speak to Simon Jelly from Protec on a previous episode of the podcast that we recorded here, about their role as technical sort of production partners, and it was going to be one of the things that I was going to ask you is about how your your role within an event dovetails with what they do, and presumably you've got to work together, haven't you? Because if you've got a great idea for the look, the feel, any sort of set dressing or theming, it has to work with the lighting and the actual technical build, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So, everything works hand in hand, and it's a really unusual model that Hilton have got here. Obviously one of the busiest hotels in the country for corporate events, and then you've also, therefore it demands people who know the spaces, people who know how to work with each other. And obviously from a just pure administration point of view, the fact that ourselves and Protec work together, we kind of know how each other works, but also that there is always an expectation saying Eventologists are doing this, so therefore we need to be ready to light this element or that element. But also, even in the pre-planning, there's a lot of work that we go in to say, this is how this product comes to life. Or actually, I'm thinking of building something quite unusual. So one of the showcases I did last year, we actually had a spinning, rotating Bond silhouette, which was really cool. But actually, how do you light something that's black and rotating? And how do you create drama with that? So we have to work together, and obviously every customer event is so different. So lighting, it holds hands with what we do, and we can't work without Protec. And Protec, whilst they can work without a lot of theming, but theming brings everything to life. And I don't actually mean Willy Wonka or Alice in Wonderland, because most people kind of think theming it, they must be just doing Oz or Wicked.
Christmas theme. Or let's put trees everywhere and some fake snow.
Absolutely not. Even conferences these days need to be a bit more exciting than trestle tables and a blank screen. So we will enhance. We will enhance. Sometimes we're there as just the enhancers to AV, and sometimes we're there in its own right and creating theatre because we're doing a theme, a proper theme.
And of course, we on the subject of conferences, for example.
Yeah.
Historically, like conference organisers would have gone, oh, we don't need all that. We just need a room and we want everybody to pay attention to what's happening on the stage. But, of course, if you've got a boring space that doesn't inspire the people who are sat there as attendees, by 2:00, that's when they're going to be nodding off. They're going to be checking their watches for when's the next coffee break. If you have a space that as soon as somebody walks into, they go, wow. If it's inspiring for the people sat in the audience, you're going to get more engagement from them. You're going to have happier attendees at your business event.
Absolutely. So, obviously we're bombarded. I grew up in the years of 4 channels. We're now bombarded with hundreds and hundreds of channels, hundreds of touch points from a marketing point of view. So actually, when you've got a conference, you've got people who are checking their Instagram, checking their emails, and you can't stop that. But also at the same time, you've got an environment that they're just not learning in. They're not digesting any information because basically it's just not stimulating enough. But by creating a space where it inspires them, whether they feel relaxed in that space or whether they're completely powered up. It's not just the content and this presentation that you're putting together. It's everything. It's the lighting and how that changes. It's the music. It's a complete sensory overload that you need to create. And then when they walk away, and the key to a great event is if they're still talking about that event in a week, in 2 weeks, and in a year's time, which often when we're collaborating with, Simon and his team, we often manage to achieve, then we've done a great job. And also from the hotel's point of view, they need people very much so who understand the audience, the way to actually engage with the audience and actually deliver events. Because I often say that when an event is absolutely brilliant, you don't actually know which part of the jigsaw has created that. The jigsaw just fits.
Yeah.
So between us, Protec, and Hilton, you create such an stitched version of an event. Automatically the customer wants more and wants to come back again. So there's benefits as a venue to create this collaborative thinking. There's benefits not just logistically, because actually they don't constantly need to sit on us to like check that we've done our paperwork. The paperwork's always there because we're
course,
suppliers.
yeah.
But also at the same time, there's also there's not the nervousness that about, well, how's this going to turn out? Because we all know what our roles are, take our roles really seriously, and we're constantly driving to deliver an executionally perfect, smooth running event. So therefore, from the customer's point of view, it was so perfect that there's no reason why they don't want to book again with
Absolutely.
Hilton.
Yeah. One thing I want to ask about spaces and how spaces have changed over the years, because we're seeing more and more events take advantage of spaces in venues to do different things. And I'll give you a couple of examples. Wellbeing areas where they want a quiet space. If it's a really intense program for the attendees, a lot more places are creating these wellbeing areas where people just go for a bit of peace and quiet, maybe for an hour or so. There are spaces that are being created, almost like sort of business zones, but dedicated for attendees of a particular event, so that if they're here for 2 or 3 days, they can go somewhere for an hour to just check their emails or have an online meeting with their office. Are you seeing more and more organisers doing that type of thing? And then obviously that filters to you to then say, right, how are we going to create that space that they want?
Absolutely. So neurodiversity is a big issue in terms of there's lots of people who actually genuinely don't like the noise and the hubbub after about an hour and a half of a really busy party. So therefore, actually creating quiet, chill out spaces. And actually, there's a lot of people who don't want to like drink all night and party. There are people who genuinely just want to chat and catch up with colleagues. So the chill out area, well-being areas, and then like cool bars, but like mocktail bars. And then like we're constantly creating spaces where it could be a photo zone or a game zone where, actually creating, going back to the point that I made earlier, it's got to be multisensory, but it's not just multisensory in terms of sounds and noises, but you need to look at the audience and go, okay, what are the audience requirements, and therefore create zones and spaces. And more and more within one event, we might be dressing and creating, different zones. So there is the party space, or at a conference, charging is a great big thing.
Yeah,
everyone has charging anxiety. So actually just having somewhere you can check your emails, charge your phone, come back, and then you're back into like conference mode. And it's nothing worse for an organizer to have people going up to their bedrooms or in their cars, and then you kind of lose them,
of course,
for hours upon end. So actually creating these spaces are so important.
Yeah, and it's the charging thing. I remember when we first started to bring in sort of, stations at exhibitions, because you're like, we need somewhere for people to charge their mobile devices and things like that. But one thing that I wanted to touch on is that I think it's important in events that we acknowledge younger people today. They have different attention spans, but they're more discerning in many, many respects, more so than I think a lot of people give them credit for. There are a lot of young people now who are choosing not to drink. Mm-hmm. They just don't want to drink alcohol. There are a lot of young people who, from a business point of view, don't just want to follow the old method from 25 years ago, which is let's do the trade show, the conference during the day, and then it's just a big old booze up in the evening. You have to offer, as younger people and the younger generation are coming into any form of business, we have to acknowledge the different tastes and the different lifestyle choices that people are making nowadays, and we have to be prepared to offer those within our events as well, rather than the old sort of tick box exercise. Give them a load of booze, throw them into a room and put a DJ on. It doesn't work anymore. No,
and it's really important for hotels and venues to understand that, because actually for conferences and whether you call it a gala dinner or is a different kind of gala dinner, basically for hotels and venues to be relevant to that conference market, actually offering something that suits that customer need is so important. So you're absolutely right. Like, these young people are much more conscious of their well-being, their well-being is sort of food and drink related, but also generally their mental health. So they need spaces to quieten down. They don't want to drink so much. So therefore, what else can you do? how can you create an inspiring space without the booze? And also from a revenue point of view for the hotel, if booze is not like, if alcohol is not the big part of their event, what else can you offer to kind of plug that gap? And I guess that's where you've got, that's where you've got, me and Simon working together to go, okay, what can we create that's really interesting, that allows them to still have the same revenue streams, seats, book the rooms, and therefore, we have to think really creatively as producers to go, it's not about sitting down and having a 3-course meal. It might be casual dining, street food. Okay, what can you do? How can you fill this space in a different way? You could create a swagger room for some of these MLL brands. They are relying on people and membership. So therefore, how can you create a really cool swagger room where they're collecting things and doing things? So they're still engaging in a really fun environment. They love photo opportunities.
Of course,
how can you do all of that within the confines of a hotel? Otherwise, what's going to happen is, over time, hotels are going to find it much more difficult to book spaces, because there are you are competing with a lot more spaces, whether it's a bar or a really funky like chill out space. So there's lots of that. So for us as producers, we need to keep up with the trends and also the changes in dynamics and socio-economic like changes.
Yeah, and I mean, for example, there you mentioned photos. Time was where you'd have your event photographer and your photo wall, and maybe that photographer would go around snapping pictures of people as they enjoy their evening. Everybody at your event now is your event photographer. And so does that incorporate itself into the design of spaces now, where you want to take advantage of that, because then that's great publicity and marketing for the hotel, for the spaces?
Yeah, and not just for the hotel. Absolutely. Photo opportunities, spaces where they can do really cool stuff. And it's not just having a photo, it's also the engagement of how you get interaction, how you get people like remembering why they were there. And even if it's just the future is now, or grow, lots of those kind of themes that you need to kind of have that engaging interaction.
Of course, yeah.
But, obviously from that point of view, it's the photo opportunity, yes, to talk about the hotel and the venue, but it's also really important for the organizer to go, well, how is this person who is bombarded with, by the time I walk out, I'm bombarded with that many Instagram messages and TikTok and everything else. How are they going to remember why we invited them? And it was not just for the food and the alcohol or whatever else you're applying. It's the crux of the message. And so therefore, the more stimulating it is, and then, from our point of view, it's like, a brief always starts off with what is the marketing objective. It's not, and often I kind of laugh at it. People just think, oh, yeah, well, I need some chair covers and table centres. Well, actually, it's beyond that. As event producers, we need to think about what the marketing objective is, and therefore going, what else do you require? It may be that at the end of it, you just need chair covers and table centres and a nice gala dinner. But let's start off with, okay, what else does the event need?
Sure. Yeah. And how much does... I guess with some of the clients that are coming in here, they might be very, very well-known brands, or they might have a very strong brand identity, even if they're not publicly well-known. How much does their own brand then lead your sort of thematic dressing and creation of the event? That they might have sort of certain iconography or colour schemes or logos, even sort of company mascots that may then lead you to thinking, well, we could take that element of their own branding and actually use that as the base of the theme.
So you've got like a kind of 50-50 split. There's a lot of people who want really branded stuff, and then we're creating. I did a really lovely event in February here, and everything was about the brand, and we did this time tunnel, which was really fantastic, and actually quite immersive. Lots of people taking pictures whilst they're going through the time tunnel, and then from there the table centres were really cool and very branded. And then equally, I did an event last week where they went, look, they actually know what the brand is and why they're here, so actually subtle on the brand, big on the impact and the visual aspect. So we went, it was actually a gala dinner, and we created a Buddha bar kind of Marrakesh kind of vibe for them. So it was very like heavy on the experience and the environment and the stimulating space that we created. So it's a real mixture, but obviously brand is everything. We have to be really like careful about how we treat it. And that's why actually an agency that understands the marketing and the objectives, but also at the same time working collaboratively with their own event planners and agency is a great way of working. So it's not just Simon who becomes our partner, it's also the customer or the event agency that we work with. We kind of almost absorb ourselves into their customer, so that obviously it's seamless for them as well, which is really important, because whilst we want to be seamless for the venue, we also need to basically help the venue hit the objective for the client as well.
No, of course. And when you, how much satisfaction do you still get when you stand back after everything's been done, and just either before doors open or even sort of mid-event, when you look around and go, we did this? Well,
I'm getting shivers now, actually, because to me, like, this job is everything. And I'm like, even now, the event that has 9 table centres to all the way through to something that's like completely transformative gives me jitters. I'm nervous before every single event. And that's not because I don't know how to do my job. I so deeply care. And the team, the extended team at Eventologists, and I'm really proud that I've recruited a bunch of people. Like, everything matters, even down to like a few days ago, a client, a well-known car brand, wanted 3 tablecloths delivering the day before their event because it was so important to them. Do you know what? The pride that my team go through to deliver that little bit of it, all the way through to the complete transformation of some of the things that we do, the jitters are amazing. We care. And also, I'm like, it's a big piece of work where you kind of just go, oh my goodness, what have we done? Sometimes you're so busy working away, building and checking on things. It's only when the lights go down and Simon's lights go up and you're like, oh my goodness, did we just look at what we've just done?
Yeah.
And you don't appreciate it. Sometimes we are our own worst critic, and I'll be walking around going, I could have done that better. I could have done this better. And even though most people are going, oh my goodness, like, have you just done that? You're always going to go, well, how could I have done that better? But at the same time, it is a magical job to do.
The we could have done that better, and the always having nerves before things open shows that you care. I think they're the 2 key indicators. Complacency is the enemy of the event organizer, and if you don't have those nerves, or you don't walk around going, we could have done that better, I think that suggests complacency. And if that's ever happened to anybody, that's the time to get out. I've never done an event, big or small, where I haven't gone, is everything working? Is that okay? Is that in place? Have they got water on the conference table? You're constantly checking in that the butterflies are going.
Absolutely.
And it's so important to have. I think it's one of the sort of the fundamentals of being in this job.
Well, obviously, to add to that, it's you're only as good as your last event, and also you can't rely on what you did in the past to dictate what you're going to do in the future. So for us, I don't even want Hilton to go, oh gosh, we've seen that 5 times. And I don't want that, because basically it bores me. So I'm constantly looking at, and the team are constantly looking at newness. But also some of it is, failure is never an option. I spent all of my day yesterday recreating a plan for one of the customers. Basically, it was a floor plan that I could see on paper that some things, like, I think my team called it my witchy instinct. I could see that there was something wrong with it, and I didn't know what. And actually, when we put it into CAD and started to look at it, kind of went, oh my goodness, it's a 450-seater event, but actually there's only space for 280, even though the plans showed that on paper it works, but actually measurement to measurement, it didn't work. We had to resolve it. The event's in 12 days' time. it's not my job to resolve it, but I resolved it because I don't want my team to go through problems on the job, but it's that constant looking forward and constant going, okay, what can go wrong? And whilst I'm not manifesting things going wrong, but actually by having that forward planning to go, did we do this? Did we have people thought of this? Even down to, I keep using examples of tablecloths, but did we deliver 2 extra tablecloths just in case laundrette didn't do a great job and keep clean tablecloths? And as daft as it sounds, but that could be the thing that stresses a event manager or a venue planner, because actually you're like, oh my goodness, like, what am I going to do here? I don't want to I and my team don't want to be the source of anyone's stress. So by constantly forward planning our job, but anybody else's job, you're then thinking ahead to go, right, okay, I'm like 99% of the time, the reason why events don't go wrong is we're forward planning to the extent where actually it's unlikely for this to happen, but let's plan for it.
Yeah.
And it's great because the things don't go wrong.
Absolutely. You have to have some element of what could go wrong. You have to build that into your thinking. You have to go, right, well, if this happens, what are we going to do? If this happens, what's the plan then? Because if you don't, 9 times out of 10, you won't ever need that backup plan. But you can guarantee that the time you don't have the backup plan is the time that something goes wrong.
Absolutely. And I remember a few years ago, it was before COVID, but there was... basically I had a turnaround. So the event started, the conference finished at 4:45. The event started at 7 o'clock, and there was a major crash, basically 300 yards away from the exit from Hilton. My van could actually see that 300 yard marker, but we couldn't do anything. So about half an hour passed. We were early, so it was great, but half an hour passed, 45 minutes passed, and at about an hour, and it was about, I would probably say 3 o'clock, I kind of phoned my team to say, right, get another van on the road. I'm going to try and get a couple of other people that I know where I can get tablecloths, bits and pieces, and I'm going to pull together an event through deliveries, and they're going to go down the A45 and round the back to try and deliver something. It doesn't matter if I double up on equipment, but it doesn't look like this, like there was helicopters by this time. So funny enough, by the time all of this new equipment arrived, the van basically arrived 20 minutes after. but the new equipment arrived at, I think, about 4:30. My van reached at about 5:15 or something. So it was so tight, but you need somebody thinking about a plan B, because you can't just go, well, I can't do anything. Like, there's a crash.
I'm sorry. Nothing I can do.
Nothing I can do. That's just not, failure is not an option. You just find a way of making it work. And obviously the client was completely understanding, because most people were on the road stuck. But actually having someone who's proactively thinking about, okay, what can I do in this situation, is what you want as a partner. And I guess that's why... And
it's what you want the client to see. You want the client to see that... You want the client to go, there's nothing you could have done about that, but I'm so happy that you clearly made an effort to try and sort something out. Yeah. Sometimes that effort is worth it alone, because if people can say... Again, going back to the complacency thing, if you go then go, oh, sorry, shrug your shoulders, nothing we can do about it, that's not what the client wants to see. Nobody wants that. They want to see that effort.
Absolutely. And I guess that's one of the reasons why, you always, like, pride yourself in, like, delivering great products and, great service. But one of the kind of trusting elements that Hilton are always knowing about Eventologists is the fact that we will do that. So they can phone me at 10 o'clock at night and say, oh, like, we've had a problem with, is there anything you can do to sort it? And actually having that, because things go wrong in hotels, things go wrong, in day-to-day circumstances, things happen. And actually having trusted suppliers to go, right, let's all work together and deliver this and make sure it happens. And like to cite an example, I just remember that just after COVID, and I was talking to the event manager from we were doing a great big event at Hilton. They took the entire the entire hotel, and I just remember that they had a problem because it was so close to coming back from COVID. Lots of people who were delivering service just didn't turn up. So some of their freelancers, there was a core number of people in the hotel, but you will have to supplement with some of the freelancers and agency staff because it was such a big event. And I just remember kind of looking at my colleagues, and I call them colleagues because they're, they are their preferred suppliers. I was like, you look like you're really struggling. Like, what can I do? And actually, it was never a problem. I ended up picking up glasses, doing service, and I was there with cleaning up and helping them, because you want that partnership to be so strong that they can call you to kind of support you with anything. And that's where, that partnership is really deep, that everyone just mucked in, got the event done, and the client didn't know any better.
To quote High School Musical, we are all in this together.
Absolutely.
And once you enter and once you step over that threshold of the event, you are in that together. I've seen so many examples myself of people mucking in, lighting teams who are from a separate company to the audio team and the video guys. They're just all working together on something because there's an issue. Staff from wherever it may be, like you said, clearing glasses, mucking in. It is, again, it's a fundamental part of working in this industry.
Absolutely. And also, if they see you as partners, then the word "that's not my job" should not be coming in. It's a really important thing. So all of our team are trained on that. You do what it takes to make sure that this event is successful, and that's it, period.
Absolutely. Partners is a great way to wrap up today's episode, because that's kind of the ethos of why we're here, and we are at the Hilton Birmingham Metropole celebrating their 50th anniversary as an event space in the heart of the UK, right alongside the NEC. And this hotel and this event space and the spaces that are available in here has the reputation that they've got because of the partnerships, because
Absolutely.
of these partnerships of the hotel working alongside trusted partners to deliver these events, which are in some respects synonymous with the UK events industry. And it just remains for me to say thank you very much to the team here for inviting us along from Event Industry News to explore some of the spaces, to be able to host the podcast in such a beautiful environment. Genuinely, for years we've done them, remotely and via video link, and it's great to be able to do that, but in very much the same way as we all had to go to virtual events during the pandemic and we were desperate to get back live. It's great to be sat here in a space like this, recording and being able to talk to somebody across the table. It makes it so much more exciting. And Rita, it's been lovely to talk to you today, and thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again to the team at Hilton Birmingham Metropole for making this happen today, and we'll see you on the next edition of the Event Industry News podcast, everybody. Goodbye.